Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. I'm your host, Paul Metza. We have an incredible guest tonight. Diamond Dave Whitaker was one of the original visionary beatniks who paved the way for others in Dinkytown, the Bohemian enclave just north of the University of Minnesota campus. He is mentioned in every Bob Dylan biography ever written as he was the man who turned a young Robert Zimmerman on to Woody Guthrie, and we all know how that worked out. But besides Dylan, Diamond Dave has seen a lot of things in his time, and we reached him by phone a couple months ago from San Francisco, just days before his 80th birthday.
Minneapolis, San Francisco, full circle. Are you there?
Yes, I am, David. Great to have you. We have the legendary Diamond Dave Whitaker on the phone with us just a few days before his 80th birthday.
80.
Wow. Diamond Dave is in every Bob Dylan book ever written.
That's hyperbole. I mean, in some, you're right.
Well,
you're there in Dinkytown at the right time.
All the ones I have, but we'll just tell people what you're known for there. Then we're going to talk about your incredible life above and beyond Bob Dylan.
Oh my goodness, go back. It is way above it. Go for it.
Okay, so Diamond Dave Whitaker, you were the man that is credited with turning Bob Dylan or Robert Zimmerman at the time onto Woody Guthrie.
True.
How did that happen?
Oh, you said it right off. Well, let me take you folks back to Dinkytown, 1961, a long time ago. I went to University High School, on the campus, now called Peak Hall, and then stayed there in Dinkytown. And my place in Dinkytown became a place for people to hang out, to their music, to talk radical politics. It was just the beginning of what they call the New Left, and it also spoke the good herb, marijuana, 1961. And so he was already Bob Dylan, I think, although not too many. And a woman named Bonnie Jahanra ran into him on the street. He looked very sad. He didn't know what to do. He was coming down from Hibbing, Minnesota, where the wind hits heavy on the borderline. I didn't know anybody. He knew he had something to bring, but he didn't know where to bring it to. And she said, come with me, and brought him to my house where music was being played, marijuana was being smoked, and radical politics, 1961, was being discussed.
Wow. Now tell people where Dinkytown was. It was right on the cusp of the University of Minnesota.
Yes.
And so there was... go ahead, David.
They were building was about to build the West Bank campus. It didn't exist in those days.
Okay.
West Bank, in my mind's eye, was called Seven Corners. It was a place where Native people, you could hear much Ojibwe being spoken. Well, Ojibwe and poor white people, and it was called Seven Corners. And the West Bank went up there. It was kind of an embarrassment, I think, to the city fathers.
What was the bar? The Mixers. That was on Seven Corners, correct?
There's the Holland Bar, where we hung out. I lived right over. We lived right over there, but that was before that. But the Mixers was the place where we mixed it up.
And who was the famous poet who taught at the U of M? He ended up taking a dive off the Washington Avenue Bridge.
Oh, that's John Berryman.
Did you know John at all?
I did.
Okay. What can you tell us about him?
Well, he had a serious, like many poets, he struggled with a drinking problem. I have 17 years, and that's why I'm still here talking to you. Serious drinking problem. He married a young wife. I remember, it was young in those days, and it was just too much for him. And one day he was walking across the bridge, East Bank, West Bank, and people were walking by. It was covered then. I think it was covered. But anyway, people saw him walk to the side of the bridge. It was a winter, so it was, and he waved to people, climbed over the barricade, and that was the end of John Berryman.
Wow. Now, David, where did you get into your politics and your worldview? How did that start?
How did that start? Well, I can't say. My mother was a socialist. My father was an artist, went along with it. My mother's Jewish, north in Minneapolis, and she was a socialist. democratic socialists like Bernie, long before Bernie, were the same. Anyway, and so I kind of came with it, and I grew up in the bosom of the Unitarians. So, which was definitely during those 50s, the period in which things were shut down, McCarthy period, the Missouri Synod Lutherans, very reactionary, fundamentalists, and so on. There was the Unitarians was a place to be, to develop, and it came out of that. And then there in Dinkytown, I began to connect with graduate students who had come to get their degrees at the University of Minnesota in American Studies from New York, Jewish, by many cases Jewish, in places like NYU and Columbia. They came to get their, it was a study that just began at U of M began, it was called American Studies, literature, politics, history. And that attracted people who had a natural interest in an alternative way of thinking.
You were born in 1937, so you went through. You're a kid during the Second World War, then the late 40s, early 50s. What was the 50s really like? They call it the button-down decade, but you would know.
I would know because I was there. I'm class of 1955.
Okay.
University High School, now called Peak Hall. That's where I first began to immerse myself in Dinkytown, because it was right over the bridge.
Same year I was born, 1955.
Exactly. We just moved over to the campus. We had an old building right on the riverbank, a block or so in. And anyway, I was buttoned down, although not, I guess it was the McCarthy period. The FBI was around. People were kind of fearful. But because of my background, because of who I was, because I was naturally independent and other, I went for it, so to speak.
Tell us about the folk music scene in Dinkytown at the time. The Scholar, of course, was probably the premier folk club in the Twin Cities.
True. Well, I think it's at the same time as the Scholar. There's another one on the other side of the campus. But anyway, but the folk scene was again in that living room I'm talking about, and there was Little Son Tony Glover, Snaker Dave Ray, and Spider John Kerner. Have you heard of them?
The trinity of the Minnesota folk scene, those three.
Well, again, they were teenagers then. We were all kind of late teens then.
Did you see? I was talking to your friend David Morton, who we will talk about a little later in our conversation. Did you see Leadbelly when he played at Northrop Auditorium?
No.
Okay.
That was earlier. I don't know when that was.
What type of folk singers were coming in through town? Not the Minneapolis St. Paul guys, but the ones from the East and West Coast. Do you remember that?
The one who just comes to mind now, and the guy who kind of brought it, was a guy named Ralph Kahn.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of him.
And he brought that spirit. And he was between generations. I remember Pete Seeger came through. And this is when he was blacklisted, and says at the University of Minnesota in the student union. I remember seeing Pete, and that's pretty much what I remember right now.
What?
But we had, we kind of went beyond that. This is with Folkways Records. That's Woody Guthrie and
sure.
Leadbelly, and also the blues. People were really beginning. Some people were really the blues. The blues, and those are the records that played on the machine.
Tell us a little bit about what a party would be like at your place in the late 50s, early 60s on a Friday night after the Scholars shut down.
Well, it was pretty nice. Any time, I can't remember. I guess it was said party time and regular time was a place people would come. They knew they could come hang out. They knew music was going to be played. They knew that interesting subjects would be discussed. I had books. Let's go back to Bob. He was there hanging out, and I heard him when he first came. He moved on my couch,
mm-hmm.
and I'm listening. And I said, "You got to read this, Bob." And I reached into my bookshelf and pulled out a copy of Woody Guthrie's "Bound for Glory."
What year was that, David? What year was that?
That was 61.
Okay,
something like that. 61, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He was 18. Do the math.
Did he... The story I heard then was he crashed on your couch, and when you woke up, he was still reading the book, probably finishing it there from a night of reading. Is that correct?
It was. And I got up and went to make coffee like I did every morning when people were around. A guy named Alan Klein owned the house. He lived downstairs. He'd come up and we'd have coffee. That's how we started our morning. So to differentiate between party and not party, I don't think he'd do that. But anyways, he had his guitar on his lap like he always did. And I came in, Bob. And he said, and so I walked to the bed, and he said, listen to this. And he sang his first Woody Guthrie song, and that was Tom Joad. What he said, for people who couldn't read the book, Grapes of Wrath, and couldn't afford the movie.
Wow.
It's the whole story of Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck.
And I believe John Steinbeck said when he heard the song, he cursed out Woody Guthrie. He said, it took me 200 pages to write what you said in 12 or 14 verses.
Well, I don't know. That sounds like apocalypse.
Well, whatever. Well, it's what I've heard, you know. Hey, it's the folk process.
A lot of things, I'll believe it. Why not believe it? But it's true. It's verses, and it's a story, the whole story of Grapes of Wrath, Preacher Casey and all that. The whole, we're all one big soul. It is the whole story, but it wouldn't have been done without the book and the movie.
Tom Joad got out of the old McAllister pen. There he got his parole. After 4 long years on a man-killing charge, Tom Joad come walking down the road, poor boy. Tom Joad come walking down the road.
Hello, humans. This is me, Ellie Krug, with Ellie 2.0 on Monday mornings at 7:30. This Monday, I'll talk about a contemporary icon in reining in hate groups, Morris Dees, who co-founded the Southern Poverty Law Center. He's taken on the Klan and skinheads and won. You'll also learn that Minnesota is home to several hate groups. That's not good news at all. I've got a vision of a better world where everyone has a place at the table. Ellie 2.0, engaging and real on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Enjoy a delicious home-cooked breakfast or lunch away from the kitchen at Milda's Cafe, now open 7 days a week. Milda's Cafe has been cooking up family favorites since 1964. Grab a coffee and sit down for a delicious Philly scramble, house-made rolls, or Denver omelet. Stop in for lunch where you'll find authentic Finnish pasties every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Open weekdays 6 to 3, weekends 8 to 2. Milda's Cafe on Glenwood Avenue, 4 blocks east of Penn.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him.
You can't even see the top of that thing.
Even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
As a family-owned business, Standard Heating and Air Conditioning has been serving the Twin Cities since 1930. A new furnace and air conditioner from Standard Heating and Air can lower your monthly utility bills, administer more consistent temperatures, and even improve indoor air quality, making your home safer and healthier for the whole family. The average heating and cooling system lasts 15 to 20 years, so if yours is on its last legs, call Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Learn more at standardheatingdeals.com.
The Two Gingers just can't get enough of Paul Metza. He's smooth, yet strong, a great mixer and very refreshing. The Two Gingers are his biggest fans. They're at practically every bar, club and restaurant in Minnesota to see his shows. And now they've taken to following Paul around the country. Texas, New York, Nebraska. You never know where you may find the Two Gingers. Just ask the bartender for them. Two Gingers Whiskey. What could happen?
This is Bill McLesley, owner of IP House in Minneapolis. Many businesses don't know their cloud server is unsupported until they actually need support. It takes only one bad experience in dealing with the big-name providers to see why I started IP House. We provide support no matter which cloud you're on, theirs or ours. Our staff is located right here in the Twin Cities and is on call 24 hours a day. And if you don't want the cloud, we can help you there too. Call us, 612-337-6337.
There was another gentleman who's a mutual friend of ours who in the Robert Shelton Bob Dylan biography, No Direction Home, says when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And we're talking about the effect that our friend Dave Morton had on a young Bob Dylan.
Well, that sounds like that comes from India. I'm kind of... But we were all pretty well who we were. I don't think... I'm not looking back at the future. People were showing up. People were connecting one another. Morton was there for sure. Hugh Brown was there for sure. Harvey Abrams, others were there, but who had that effect, I hesitate to say.
Right.
We'd come together. The times were right.
What do you remember about David Morton back in the day?
Well, I knew Morton. We went to school together, either the last year before University High School.
Okay.
Morton. And we were both in the Unitarian Youth, Sunday night. It's called the Channing Club, after William Ellery Channing, the famous Unitarian.
Interesting.
We went there together. So before so Morton and I kind of grew up together in that way.
Wow. My grandmother was a Unitarian, so I'm very familiar with that religion.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me light a cigarette.
Yeah.
Unitarians were definitely an oasis in the 50s. Well, they've been an oasis for quite a bit, but I'm talking about the 50s, when things were really set down, when the Lutherans, not just the Lutheran, the Missouri Synod, the most reactionary of the Lutherans, Yeah, they were kind of running the show. We had there, but the Unitarians up there on Mount Curve Avenue, right there in over Loring Park, that's where I met a lot of people, and there's definitely a segue with the Unitarians and Dickeytown. And like that.
And I believe that Unitarian Church is still there. I've been there for a couple of events. Right behind the old Walker and the Guthrie, correct?
That's it.
Yeah.
And I went by there for a reason of nostalgia, because I wanted to see when I came through. This is the last time after the Rainbow Gathering. And I came through, and of course I want to go out. And I went up there. And here, and to just compare who I am now, kind of, and it's a lot of older people, and they have them. So I realized Minnesota is a different style.
Right.
Nobody came to me and said because I got up at the thing and said I'd been in blah blah blah, and I used to be here, and I grew up here, and now I'm so on. And then I stood back after the thing and expected people to come up and say something, but nobody did. It was. I think in Minnesota, I guess was people don't talk to one another the way that I'm used to.
David, now you went out to
the 50s in this very room, and so I was a bit disappointed. But looking back at now, that's the way things are.
David,
different places have different styles.
Right. Now you've lived in San Francisco for how long?
I got here in 1957. Huh?
And you rubbed shoulders with a lot of pretty cool cats when you first got to San Francisco, correct?
With the Beatniks.
Yeah. So tell us about Jack Kerouac, Neil Cassidy, Lawrence.
Let me finish my.
Yeah, go ahead.
I came out here. I read the article, Nation magazine. In fact, it was there in the library of University High School. They had Nation, and a guy named Kenneth Rexroth.
Yeah.
He was a literary critic. Anyway, an article that something was happening in San Francisco. And it was before the term beat was even coined. But they mentioned Ginsberg and Kerouac and all these poets. And I said, I'm there to myself. And soon it was just a 3-lane highway, remember. There's no interstate then. You just put your thumb out, and soon I was here standing in front of State Lights bookstore. That was 1957. And soon there I was, bike messenger by day, beatnik by day and night. It was 1957.
So tell us. Wow, I bet you were. So what was it like? What was Jack Kerouac like?
What was Jack Kerouac like? Well, he's very quiet. He was, they call him Memory Babe because he wrote everything down. It just changed the names. That's on the road and so on. And I not only know him, I knew a lot of the people who were in his book, like Neil Cassidy, Dean Moriarty in his book.
Right.
And stuff like that. But he was quiet until he was drinking, and then what was he like? He was a Jack Kerouac. On the Road hadn't come out yet. I think it was there when it did come out. So,
did you say Memory Babe? Was that the name? Memory, B-A-B-E?
Memory Babe is a biography of Kerouac.
Wow.
By Jerry Nicosia. It's called Memory Babe.
Okay.
He claims that they called him back in the day because of but I never heard that. But I know the book you made by Jerry Nicosia, Memory Babe, and he claims that's what they called him back then. I never heard that, and I was around that all the time.
What about?
But he definitely, I mean, he could write this stuff. He could just type it out, human typewriter, and he just changed the names. Like Neil Cassidy became Dean Moriarty.
What did you have a chance to hang out with Neil Cassidy?
Yeah, he was there. He'd come through. The two of them were working at the. Were working on the railways, and they'd come up on the weekends in their conductors in their outfits, in their uniform kind of. That's right. And Neil would have a kilo of marijuana in a shopping bag, and people would come up and he'd give them a $10 bill, and he'd pull a couple handfuls out. It was really cheap in those days. Remember, it was only $10 an ounce,
right?
$80 a kilo. That's 2.2 pounds.
How was it? How does it compare with the power of the marijuana today? Was it good?
Oh, nothing. It was good enough. I'll put it that way. It didn't get in the way. It didn't get in the way of what you did. It was all Mexican.
Right.
In fact, I think the term wetback comes from the fact that I used to swim it across the Rio Grande in a backpack full of kilos. Full of kilos.
Wow.
And they'd swim it across. This is before, in the 50s, quite a bit long before the Humboldt County, Mendocino, grow your own marijuana industry started.
Took over. What can you tell us about Allen Ginsberg? Because he, in 1955, I believe, he debuted Howl at Gallery 6.
That's right.
Were you there?
I didn't meet him till later. Wasn't there till later.
Okay.
But I'd see him on the. I would stop and tell on the streets or on Grant Avenue between there's the place and Vesuvio's down the street and the bagel shop with 3 places where people hung out, and so you'd see him there in between, and then where Kerouac and Cassidy coming up from Los Altos where they lived on the weekends. So that was the crew, and there were others too, but that was like the crew.
Yeah, Greg Corso, let's talk about him. He actually died in a suburb of Minneapolis 10 years ago or so.
He was a New York guy.
Yeah.
He was a New York to the bone.
Who's your favorite poet of the bunch? Or do you like them all?
I don't have a favorite. I was amazed when I first read Howl, but I don't want to talk about favorites. Many poets who touched me. Some of them, there's a big bunch. Bunches.
Tell us some we should... David, tell us some that we should know about.
Well, he's the one who just came to mind. Philip Levine.
Okay.
There you go. He was out of Detroit, out of a suburb of Detroit, I said. Check him out for yourself. Google him.
More with Diamond Dave Whitaker on the Wall of Power Radio Hour after these messages.
Number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Saturdays at 1 p.m., you have a chance at a fresh start, a new beginning. Hi, everybody. This is Freddie Bell, host of New Beginnings. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, spirituality, and even entertainment. Every day is a chance for a fresh start. Join us Saturdays at 1 p.m. for New Beginnings with Freddie Bell on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
The two gingers just can't get enough of Paul Metza. He's smooth, yet strong, a great mixer and very refreshing. The two gingers are his biggest fans. They're at practically every bar, club and restaurant in Minnesota to see his shows. And now they've taken to following Paul around the country. Texas, New York, Nebraska. You never know where you may find the two gingers. Just ask the bartender for them. Two Gingers Whiskey. What could happen?
The Blue State Ball is back. Hi, it's Mike McEntee. AM 950's annual get-together of like-minded progressives is March 10th at the Blaisdell in Minneapolis. And I will be there and look forward to talking with you. But we've got much bigger stars on the program. The voices you hear here every day, Tom Hartman, Norman Goldman, and of course our own Matt McNeil. Plus, expect lots of big-name political guests and candidates. It's always a great time, and tickets are on sale now at am950radio.com. Come join us and celebrate the resistance and the excitement building towards the 2018 elections. General admission is just $35 and gets you in at 7 p.m. or come early at 5:30 p.m. with a VIP ticket for $100. Drop by and say hi to me, Matt, Norman, and Tom. The Blue State Ball is March 10th. Get tickets at am950radio.com and be part of the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Why must the world be so cold? They've gone against what was told. Thinking rape is cool, think about it. They think it's not wrong, violence against women, the rape, the abuse, the emotional, physical. They all hold the hate, think about it. Is it right or wrong? What attracts you? I'm not saying no names, but you laugh. Talk about it like nothing is wrong. Think about it. They all hold the hate. Gotta stop the violence. Stop the hate. Think about it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Sam Turnberg. Tonight we'll see increasing clouds with a low around 14. Tomorrow there's a 20% chance of snow before noon, and we'll have a high near 39. Monday there's more snow likely before 11 a.m., and we'll have a high near 23. The Bad Waitress in Northeast Minneapolis is a bit more grown-up than its sister on Nicollet. This finer diner vibe has a full bar serving craft cocktails and a brand new inventive dinner menu. The Bad Waitress buys organic and local, and you can visit them at 700 Central Avenue in Northeast Minneapolis or online at thebadwaitress.com.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. More with Diamond Dave Whitaker on the phone from San Francisco.
What about Lawrence Ferlinghetti? Did you get to be buddies with him?
Well, it depends if you mean buddies. He's the first guy I met when I made it to San Francisco back then in '57, and I knew where to go, North Beach, and I'm walking up Grand Avenue, Columbus to Grand, and there it was, right, just up a block. City Lights Bookstore.
Wow.
5 years old.
Wow.
And so I went, wow, I'm here. Because Rexler talked about City Lights as a central spot. And then, so I'm standing in front of it. I remember like it was yesterday. And here's this guy. He's humanoid, I guess he's 30. And he was putting copies of Howl in the window.
Wow.
The City Lights was in a smaller place. It was just that triangle then. And I'm standing there. He's put in the window, and I go in, and I say, well, I just got here. What do I do? So, good, baby. And he said, well, I'm Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and we just got acquitted in the Hull trial. And I'm putting him back in the window.
Wow. What a day.
The very day I got here. I got there.
That's pretty cool. That boded well for the future. You were kind of blessed by the right hand of fate.
Well, it sounds too good to be true, but that's true.
Wow, that's fantastic, Dave.
Too good to be true, but it was. I'm standing there now in my mind's eye as he's putting copies of Howl, Volume 1, Number 1 of the Pocket Poet series in the window.
Wow. How many of the places that you could hang out in the bars, restaurants are still there in North Beach, David?
Well, Vesuvius is still there.
Okay.
And that was where we'd go to see the college girls and faculty members and so on. It was one of my class. But the place, which was where we all hung out, just called the place, up Granite Avenue, evening, it would be empty, but then it would fill up and finally packed up. And you have to walk through a line of cops to get there. The place, and then the bagel shop. It was a daytime coffee shop a block or so down the street. The Coexistence Bagel Shop.
Was there a place called the Five Spot out there? A club?
I think the Five Spot was a jazz place.
Yeah. Did you go there at all, David?
No, that was a little more kind of. I was a bike messenger. My line is beatnik, bike messenger by day, beatnik by day and night. It was 1957.
Wow.
And I was in Seventh Heaven, a nonlinear doubt on nearby checkerboard. So I remember I was only 18 or 19 years old then. And they did cardio and stuff. I didn't think about it. I knew there was an after-hours place. Where after the Five Spot and other places, they'd all show up to jam. This is a generation of Mingus and Monk and all that.
Wow.
It was called Jimbo's, Bob City. There was an after-hours place. Didn't matter how old you were. In the Fillmore. Jimbo's.
Wow. Did you get to hear some of those jams, meet those great jazz musicians?
Some of it. I lived right across the street for a while at the Swiss American Hotel. And right across the street was the Jazz Workshop. And who lived in the same place, if I could tell out the window, was the hipster at the time, Lenny Bruce.
Wow. Did you ever get to hang out with Lenny?
Well, we all kind of hung out. Everybody talked together. There wasn't the class system of celebrities in yet, you know?
Right. Interesting. That's a good way of looking at it.
What's the way I do look at it?
So what were you paying for rent back in 1957 in San Francisco?
$10 a week. And the places where there's a good, they were like $10 a week hotels.
Wow.
And there was like the Dante, now called the Europa, the Swiss American. It's right next, the Swiss American, the Golden Eagle. Those were all $10 a week, and they're like strippers and poets, and people had their own room, but the doors were always open, and communities were emerging.
Boy, when I think about you being a bike messenger, and then I think about those hills in San Francisco, that was not an easy gig.
You learned how to avoid the hills.
Wow. But occasionally, I'm sure you had to go up or down some of those Lombard Street or any of those.
And I think I worked for RCA, Ship to Shore. And I think if you worked for, and that was a much more loose, that was like the beginning of the rebel bike messengers. They went through beatniks and hippies and punk rockers. But then there was the other sort, like Western Union and so on, who were by and large people, small Filipinos wearing bow ties and so on. We could take our time.
Right.
We did.
So when did you move back to Minneapolis then, David, after your sojourn to San Francisco?
Okay, after Minneapolis, I got a chance to go to Europe. A friend of mine inherited a bunch of money and said, I'll take you. I guess he wanted somebody to take you to Europe. But in those days, there weren't that many. You didn't go by airplane. You took by ship. It took a week or more. And you just hang out in a ship and go from the East Coast to Europe. But then I lived for over a year, less than 2, on a kibbutz in Israel. I took 21.
Wow.
On a kibbutz Beit Hashita. Well, in Hebrew, and I always, now I have to hasten to just say, because they look at me, Jewish people look at me like all crinkled up, like I was a sinner of some sort. This is long before the 6 Day War.
Right.
This was a different situation.
Right.
After the West Bank had been invaded. So I sometimes even avoid mentioning it, because people have this whole thing in their minds. And somehow if you ever went, and it was in 1960, I turned 21. It was before all of that.
Right.
And somehow I should castigate myself. I lived on kibbutz. And the kibbutz was real, though, a couple of them. And they were still real. I heard now it's not the same.
What was a day like? A day like at the kibbutz? What did you do?
Well, you'd get up, go out and work in the cool of the morning, and sometimes bring food out. Be working in the olives, 18, that's the olives. Or you could come in, and go to the Hadarokal, which is the dining hall in Hebrew, and everybody eat together. and then the various people, teams, they had something in there. Who sat Abadal, the worker leader, and he decided who workers were where, because there'd be different things you have to do, whether it be in the citrus, in the olives. That's 18. Tepu Hadama. That's I'm thinking about all this now. That's like pomegranates. It's what you did, or if they're, and these are fairly new too. Or they work in the fields, picking up rocks. Yeah, the truck and picking up rocks and throwing the truck where they're getting the fields ready to be sown.
Was it a long day of work? Long day of work? Was it a long day of work?
Long day, no. I mean, right now it doesn't feel right because we took break. It was a different kind. It wasn't like working for the man. It was a different atmosphere.
Right.
We were all together. It was a kibbutz.
And how long
was... Work got down, but I've been before, the stories you took when people have been there in the early days, then they would work day and night. Then they had to do that. But, of course, having done that earlier, they got used to, got the thing that we're not, that we have to, not only are we there to be a success as if I was a kibbutz, but also make our life into a good thing.
So when did you come back from Israel to Minneapolis?
61.
Oh. And did you, how long after you gave Bound for Glory to Bob Dylan, how much longer did he stay in Minneapolis before he took off for New York City?
Well, we hung up. It wasn't that long because he read the book, and then he read it, and then he said, let's call Woody. And then I knew if you read his Dylan's book Chronicles, he tells about it. And he said, let's go Woody. And he says that I knew where he could be found. And his book is somewhere in the East Coast. But I knew exactly where he could be found in Greystone Mental Hospital.
Right.
Where he's dying of Huntington's cholera. And so he tried to call. Remember later tonight, because remember, we were drinking beer then, we spoke, and we tried to call. We got as far as the ward. And the doctor, or whoever, said he can't come to the phone. He's paralyzed. He's dying. And that's when Dylan turned to me and said, I'm going to go see him. And so we took it. It wasn't that long.
Mm-hmm.
And so Morton, in fact, it was Morton had the car, he had a convertible. He got from somewhere. And so we hopped in the car and took him out to the highway to Madison, Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago, where he played at the Gate of Horn, these folk clubs. And then a few weeks later, I get this card. He said, the famous picture of Woody Guthrie with a cigarette hanging from his mouth at an impossible angle. And his guitar, and on this guitar it says, this machine kills fascists. And I turn it over and it says, Dear Dave, I saw Woody. He likes my stuff. Signed Bob.
Wow.
This card kills fascists. Now, some of the biographies of Dylan, he goes, I saw Woody, he's a hip and brother. The things that they say, and some of it he didn't say at all. Dylan didn't say. He said what the most you'd expect him to say. He said, I saw Woody, he likes my stuff. Doesn't it sound more like Bob and blah, 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 and boo? He's the hippest, coolest. Oh, it's disgusting.
What, you don't still have the postcard, do you?
No, I lost it long. I'm not like keeping stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be I don't know where it is or what it is, but believe me, it happened. I know you don't forget. And anyway, but then I've talked to people later, and they claim that by that time, Woody was no longer capable of saying anything. He was about gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan may have come and played, sat by his, I know that happened, sat by his band and played for him, but whether he understood what was going on or not is, I don't know.
Right.
And I know he got picked up by his family. The father was a labor guy, worked for Longshoremen, East Coast Longshoremen.
The Gleasons, I believe, the Gleason family.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the son, they lived in East Orange, New Jersey.
Right.
And they met Dylan there, and they took him home. And the rest is history. Remember in one of the songs he says, so long, New York, hello, East Orange, or something like that.
Right. It's a great tune. Did you get out to New York and visit Bob or anybody else you knew out there at that time?
Later, I'd go back and forth from time to time. In fact, I went up there. I stayed with Bob not too long later, I forgot. But I remember I was married to Gretel.
Right.
And we went out there. And we stayed there with, I remember he was living on positively 4th Street then.
Okay, you were, excuse me, Dave, let me ask you, you were married to Gretel, did you say?
Yes.
Okay. And, okay, so tell us, so you were hanging out with Bob in the Village, I imagine?
Well, I lived on 4th Street.
Okay.
On the other side of Broadway. Over a place, I remember in Mind's Eye, there's over a place called the Door Shop, where they sold doors so people could make coffee tables out of it. That was fashionable then.
You're positively sure it was 4th Street?
It was 4th Street.
No, it was a bad pun.
I know people have confused that. I think he's talking about 4th Street in Dinkytown. I don't know, but I know he lived on 4th Street.
Right. Well, there's a 4th Street in Hibbing, too, that you passed by between Chisholm and Hibbing, and I always thought that could have been the one, too. I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Diamond Dave Whitaker on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metzer, reminding you this show is brought to you in part by the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation.
The #1 source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Supporting the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities has never been easier. You'll find an expansive list of local dining options at eatlocalminnesota.com, from classic American comfort food to authentic flavors from around the world. Crooner's Lounge and Supper Club invites you to check out their beautiful facilities for your next special occasion. Book your wedding reception, retirement party, business dinner, or other special event with confidence, knowing their expert staff and award-winning chef will make it a big hit with your guests. Call today to get a quote, 763-571-9020. STEM offers exquisite and exciting wines from around the world, served in a beautiful space showcasing a culmination of old world and new. While wine is their focus, STEM also has artisan beer, seasonal cocktails, and delicious rotating small plates. STEM is located at 24 University Avenue in Northeast Minneapolis. Learn more at STEMMinneapolis.com.
Crazy about pets? We are too. The Pet Connection Show is a great venue for fun, informative, and creative conversations about pets. Join myself, Kathy Menard, and Dr. Nicole Parole, along with guests who are leaders in the dynamic and growing pet industry, as we discuss healthcare, relationships, behaviors, and even political issues as they relate to our pets. So come, sit, stay for the Pet Connection Show, Sundays 11 a.m. to noon on AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
I first fell in love with Toyotas when I got my RAV4. It was perfect. And now that it's SUV month at Rudy Luther Toyota, you can fall in love yourself. Right now, Rudy Luther Toyota has 290 RAV4s in stock with 0% financing for 60 months or 0.9% financing for 72. The RAV4 is sharp with the safety features you need. It's perfect size for getting around town, and hands down, it's the best off-road vehicle I've ever driven. See for yourself during SUV month at Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of downtown Minneapolis on 394.
Hi, friends. I've been talking to you about Minnesota's first green cemetery, Prairie Oaks Memorial Eco Gardens. It's an entirely new way of looking at our last earthly step. Burials are designed to have as little impact on the environment as possible. For many of us, a continuation of the commitment we made during our lifetimes. Let me suggest you go to the website, mngreengraves.com. Explore what it is. Prairie Oaks Memorial Eco Gardens. It's a lovely place, a peaceful place. Minnesota's first green cemetery.
What did you guys do when you were hanging with Bob, you and Gretel? What did you do with hanging with Bob in the village?
Well, he took us around and introduced us to people, and he took us to the. Now this is I'm still gonna, the Living Theater.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's Julian Beck and Judy Molina.
Right.
And he took us. I remember him taking us there because of the show, and I had known Wavy Gravy when he was still Hugh Romney. I saw a poster saying No, Hugh Romney, stand-up comedian. So I tracked him down and invited him to come over because I could see he was about to smoke marijuana with us. And so when we went to New York, he was he Lady Gravy yet? I don't remember. I don't think so. But he was doing a stand-up comedy after hours at the Living Theater. And the Living Theater was they were having a show called The Brig. And I remember Dylan took us over because he knew that I knew Hugh, soon to be Wavy, and he knew us. It seemed like a good thing to do.
Now then, how did Hugh Romney, later Wavy Gravy, hook up with Bonnie, the woman, the lady from Dickeytown?
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure. I know they hooked up, and we were like the first crew to be driving a bus, living in a bus, and then a caravan from buses, going from place to place, and ending up at the hog farm. But how that happened, I know there's Pacific High School. I know there's the hog farm collect. But I don't know the chronology there.
How long were you in Minneapolis before you took off back to San Francisco?
Oh, so I went to New York, where I met Beverly, the mother of my kids. My oldest son is Ubi, who's like 52 now.
Wow.
So I went to New York, back to Greenwich Village, and then we hitchhiked to San Francisco to help kick off the hippie movement. Of course, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but obviously that was the spirit that brought me back.
And what year was that, David Whitaker?
And the mother of my kids, that was 64, 65, I guess. 65.
Wow.
It was around then.
So were you there? Were you there at the beginning of the acid test with the Grateful Dead? Then the Warlocks?
Well, it was before. Yeah, I was. I met the Grateful Dead just when I became a warlock. Just before at Ken Kesey's place. Because it was about 65. That was almost just after that. I was there and met, and the acid test hadn't really begun yet, but it was there. That's when I first tripped.
Wow.
Ken Kesey's place on the way we were going to, and that's 65 or 66, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know your chronology pretty well, better than I do.
It's hard to believe, but LSD was legal back then.
There was a short period where it was legal.
Those must have been powerful experiences. Tripping.
But before that, in fact, it was still in Minneapolis, where we first got involved with psychedelics. There in Tinkertown in Minneapolis. Dylan was there, in fact, too. Come to think of it. And that was before LSD. That was Morning Glory Seeds and Peyote Cactus.
Wow.
They sent it up to us from Jones Cacti Ranch.
Wow, in the early 60s, you guys were on to peyote.
We were.
Bless you.
We were definitely up for it. We were ready for it.
So you're out in San Francisco.
Already the doors to perception.
Right. So what other cool people besides, did you have any personal interaction with Ken Kesey?
Well, I knew him. I went to his place, but he was, the conversation. But with the Angels there, with Ed, it was like a party place in La Honda.
Right.
It was happening. It got kind of out of hand.
Wow.
In fact, his wife was Jane's mother, and they left. They said, this is too much.
Right.
And, because he wanted to, in my mind, he was so enthralled by One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, McMurphy, the character there, that now he doesn't want to just write a book. He wanted to be that character. And so he was willing to, and that's who he became. Ken Kesey was more than just a writer of books about it, you know?
Wow. That's an interesting take on it.
His own character in his own novel. Really, I think like this. And then he moved up with his brother in Oregon. His brother grew apples, was it?
A dairy farm, I believe.
Anyway.
Chuck, yeah.
And then dairy farm. Then he drank himself to that. Kesey did. That's how. And I met Kesey a few times since. The last one, I think it was the 30th anniversary, Summer of Love. He brought the bus. Riding on the bus, he drove in. And because I was involved, so I jumped on and rode beside him on the bus. And this was, I'd forgotten, I don't know. And he drove right through the crowd, right up to the stage, 30th anniversary Summer of Love.
Wow.
Maybe it was 20th. Well, one of those.
Now, when did you get involved with the Rainbow Gathering? And tell people first, David. Tell people what the whole Rainbow Gathering thing is about.
I am a member of an extended family called the Rainbow Family. I went to my first Rainbow Gathering in 1980. I think I've missed one since. And so that's important to understand what the Rainbow Gathering. One of the reasons why I'm still surviving at this advanced age is I'm part of that extended family, the Rainbow Family, and I'll talk about that. And I go every year. This year we were in eastern Oregon, in the National Forest. Next year we're going to be in Georgia, in the Appalachians, in what's called the Katua bioregion. Rainbow Gathering next year, July.
David Whitaker, you're turning 80 years old. Give us some advice about how to stay young, healthy, and positive in these trying times.
Well, these are the words that came to me when I was turning 79. And it came to me from the Spirit. One is let the Spirit speak to you. And here's what the Spirit said to me. It's a good place to take this break. And here's what she said. Learn to love to learn, this never ends. Learn to love to learn, this never ends. And so here I am, soon to be 80, and you ask me some words, that's the words I give to you. So it's come through me.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour, a great conversation with 80-year-old Diamond Dave Whitaker. This show is produced by Paul Metzler, engineered by Paul Sowie, and brought to you in part by the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation. We'd like to remind you can also watch my TV show, Wall of Power TV, every Saturday night at 8 p.m., replayed at 11:30 p.m. If you have Comcast, you can get it on Channel 6. If not, you can stream it at mcn6.org. I play at the Public Kitchen and Bar in St. Paul every Wednesday night at 8:30. Shaw's Bar in Northeast Minneapolis, 16th and University on Thursday nights at 5. Follow me at paulmetza.com. And like my dad, Elder Metza, used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.
Distance, I in my head, and the mama talks who teach. For now I become my enemy, and the extent that I've reached. Till the death by confusion.